What habits do highly effective people have? The book opens with an explanation of how many individuals who have achieved a high degree of outward success still find themselves struggling with an inner need for developing personal effectiveness and growing healthy relationships with other people. Covey believes the way we see the world is entirely based on our own perceptions. In order to change a given situation, we must change ourselves, and in order to change ourselves, we must be able to change our perceptions. In studying over 200 years of literature on the concept of success, Covey identified a very important change in the way that humans have defined success over time. In earlier times, the foundation of success rested upon character ethic. But starting around the 1920s, the way people viewed success shifted to what Covey calls personality ethic. These days, people look for quick fixes. They see a successful person, team, or organization and ask, "How do you do it? Teach me your techniques." But these shortcuts that we look for, hoping to save time and effort and still achieve the desired result, are simply band-aids that will yield short-term solutions. They don't address the underlying condition. The way we see the problem is the problem, Covey writes. We must allow ourselves to undergo paradigm shifts to change ourselves fundamentally, and not just alter our attitudes and behaviors on the surface level in order to achieve true change. That's where the 7 habits of highly effective people come in. Habits 1, 2, and 3 are focused on self-mastery and moving from dependence to independence. Habits 4, 5, and 6 are focused on developing teamwork, collaboration, and communication skills, and moving from independence to interdependence. Habit 7 is focused on continuous growth and improvement and embodies all the other habits. Let's dive into the 7 habits now. Habit number 1, be proactive. This habit emphasizes taking responsibility for one's own life and choices. It means being in control of one's thoughts, emotions, and actions, rather than being a passive victim of circumstance. What distinguishes us as humans from all other animals is our inherent ability to examine our own character, to decide how to view ourselves and our situations, and to control our own effectiveness. Put simply, in order to be effective, one must be proactive. Reactive people take a passive stance. They believe the world is happening to them. They say things like, "There's nothing I can do. That's just the way I am." They think the problem is out there, but that thought is the problem. Reactivity becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and reactive people feel increasingly victimized and out of control. Proactive people, however, recognize they have responsibility, which Covey defines as the ability to choose how you will respond to a given stimulus or situation. In order to be proactive, we must focus on the circle of influence that lies within our circle of concern. In other words, we must work on the things we can do something about. The positive energy we exert will cause our circle of influence to expand. Reactive people, on the other hand, focus on things that are in their circle of concern but not in their circle of influence, which leads to blaming external factors, emanating negative energy, and causing their circle of influence to shrink. Habit number 2. Begin with the end in mind. This habit encourages people to clarify their goals and priorities, and to visualize their desired outcomes. This helps people stay focused and motivated as they work towards their goals. Start with a clear destination in mind. Covey says we can use our imagination to develop a vision of what we want to become and use our conscience to decide what values will guide us. Most of us find it rather easy to busy ourselves. We work hard to achieve victories, promotions, higher income, more recognition. But we don't often stop to evaluate the meaning behind this busyness, behind these victories. We don't ask ourselves if these things that we focus on so intently are what really matter to us. Habit 2 suggests that, in everything we do, we should begin with the end in mind. Start with a clear destination. That way, we can make sure the steps we're taking are in the right direction. Covey emphasizes that our self-awareness empowers us to shape our own lives, instead of living our lives by default or based on the standards or preferences of others. Beginning with the end in mind is also extremely important for businesses. Being a manager is about optimizing for efficiency. But being a leader is about setting the right strategic vision for your organization in the first place and asking, what are we trying to accomplish? Before we as individuals or organizations can start setting and achieving goals, we must be able to identify our values. This process may involve some rescripting to be able to assert our own personal values. Rescripting, Covey explains, is recognizing ineffective scripts that have been written for you and changing those scripts by proactively writing new ones that are built of your own values. It is also important to identify our center. Whatever is at the center of our life will be the source of our security, guidance, wisdom, and power. Our centers affect us fundamentally. They determine our daily decisions, actions, and motivations, as well as our interpretation of events. However, Covey notes that none of these centers are optimal, and that instead, we should strive to be principle-centered. We should identify the timeless, unchanging principles by which we must live our lives. This will give us the guidance that we need to align our behaviors with our beliefs and values. Habit number 3. Put first things first. This habit encourages people to prioritize the important things in their life, such as relationships, personal growth, and health, over less important things like work and business. In order to manage ourselves effectively, we must put first things first. We must have the discipline to prioritize our day-to-day actions based on what is most important, not what is most urgent. In Habit 2, we discussed the importance of determining our values and understanding what it is we are setting out to achieve. Habit 3 is about actually going after these goals and executing on our priorities on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis. In order to maintain the discipline and the focus to stay on track toward our goals, we need to have the willpower to do something when we don't want to do it. We need to act according to our values rather than our desires or impulses at any given moment. All activities can be categorized based on 2 factors, urgent and important. The challenge is not to manage time, but to manage ourselves, says Stephen Covey. Covey also says, the key is not to prioritize what's on your schedule, but to schedule your priorities. Habit number 4. Put first things first. This habit promotes a cooperative, rather than competitive, mindset. It means looking for solutions that benefit everyone involved, rather than just oneself. In order to establish effective interdependent relationships, we must commit to creating win-win situations that are mutually beneficial and satisfying to each party. In order to establish effective interdependent relationships, we must commit to creating win-win situations that are mutually beneficial and satisfying to each party. Covey explains that there are 6 paradigms of human interaction. 1. Win-win. Both people win. Agreements or solutions are mutually beneficial and satisfying to both parties. 2. Win-lose. If I win, you lose. Win-lose people are prone to use position, power, credentials, and personality to get their way. 3. Lose-win. I lose, you win. Lose-win people are quick to please and appease, and seek strength from popularity or acceptance. 4. Lose-lose. Both people lose. When 2 win-lose people get together, that is, when 2 determined, stubborn, ego-invested individuals interact, the result will be lose-lose. 5. Win. People with the win mentality don't necessarily want someone else to lose. That's irrelevant. What matters is that they get what they want. 6. Win-win or no deal. If you can't reach an agreement that is mutually beneficial, there is no deal. The best option is to create win-win situations. With win-lose or lose-win, one person appears to get what he wants for the moment, but the results will negatively impact the relationship between those 2 people going forward. A win-win or no deal option is important to use as a backup. When we have no deal as an option in our mind, it liberates us from needing to manipulate people and push our own agenda. We can be open and really try to understand the underlying issues. In solving for win-win, we must consider to go for win-win, you not only have to be nice, you have to be courageous, says Stephen Covey. Habit number 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. This habit encourages people to listen actively and empathetically to others, rather than just thinking about what they want to say next. This helps build strong relationships and improves communication. Before we can offer advice, suggest solutions, or effectively interact with another person in any way, we must seek to deeply understand them and their perspective through empathic listening. Let's say you go to an optometrist and tell him that you've been having trouble seeing clearly, and he takes off his glasses, hands them to you and says, "Here, try these. They've been working for me for years." You put them on, but they only make the problem worse. What are the chances you'd go back to that optometrist? Unfortunately, we do the same thing in our everyday interactions with others. We prescribe a solution before we diagnose the problem. We don't seek to deeply understand the problem first. Habit 5 says that we must seek first to understand, then to be understood. In order to seek to understand, we must learn to listen. Stephen Covey says, "You've spent years of life learning how to read and write, years learning how to speak. But what about listening? To listen empathically requires a fundamental paradigm shift. We typically seek first to be understood. Most people listen with the intent to reply, not to understand. At any given moment, they're either speaking or preparing to speak. After all," Covey points out, communication experts estimate that 10% of our communication is represented by our words. 30% is represented by our sounds. 60% is represented by our body language. The second part of Habit 5 is, then to be understood. This is equally critical in achieving win-win solutions. When we're able to present our ideas clearly and in the context of a deep understanding of the other person's needs and concerns, we significantly increase the credibility of your ideas. Seeking to understand requires consideration. Seeking to be understood takes courage, says Stephen Covey. Habit number 6, synergize. This habit promotes teamwork and collaboration. It means working together with others to achieve a common goal, rather than just working alone. By understanding and valuing the differences in another person's perspective, we have the opportunity to create synergy, which allows us to uncover new possibilities through openness and creativity. The combination of all the other habits prepares us for Habit 6, which is the habit of synergy, or when 1 + 1 = 3 or more, and the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. For example, if you plant 2 plants close together, their roots will commingle and improve the quality of the soil, so that both plants will grow better than they would on their own. Synergy allows us to create new alternatives and open new possibilities. It allows us as a group to collectively agree to ditch the old scripts and write new ones. So how can we introduce synergy to a given situation or environment? Start with Habits 4 and 5. You must think win-win and seek first to understand. Once you have these in mind, you can pool your desires with those of the other person or group. And then you're not on opposite sides of the problem. You're together on one side, looking at the problem, understanding all the needs, and working to create a third alternative that will meet them. What we end up with is not a transaction, but a transformation. Both sides get what they want, and they build their relationship in the process. By putting forth a spirit of trust and safety, we will prompt others to become extremely open and feed on each other's insights and ideas, creating synergy. The real essence of synergy is valuing the differences, the mental, emotional, and psychological differences between people. Covey says, "The key to valuing differences is to realize that all people see the world, not as it is, but as they are. After all, if 2 people have the same opinion, one is unnecessary." When we become aware of someone's different perspective, we can say, "Good. You see it differently. Help me see what you see." Remember, we seek first to understand, and then we find strength and utility in those different perspectives in order to create new possibilities and win-win results. Synergy allows you to value the differences in other people as a way to expand your perspective. Sidestep negative energy and look for the good in others. Exercise courage in interdependent situations to be open and encourage others to be open. And catalyze creativity and find a solution that will be better for everyone by looking for a third alternative. Habit number 7, sharpen the saw. This habit encourages people to take care of their physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual health. This helps maintain a balance in life and ensures long-term effectiveness and happiness. To be effective, we must devote the time to renewing ourselves physically, spiritually, mentally, and socially. Continuous renewal allows us to synergistically increase our ability to practice each habit. Habit 7 is focused around renewal, or taking time to sharpen the saw. It surrounds all of the other habits and makes each one possible by preserving and enhancing your greatest asset, yourself. There are 4 dimensions of our nature, and each must be exercised regularly and in balanced ways. Physical dimension. The goal of continuous physical improvement is to exercise our body in a way that will enhance our capacity to work, adapt, and enjoy. To renew ourselves physically, we must eat well, get sufficient rest and relaxation, Exercise on a regular basis to build endurance, flexibility, and strength. Focusing on the physical dimension helps develop habit 1 muscles of productivity. We act based on the value of well-being instead of reacting to the forces that keep us from fitness. Spiritual dimension. The goal of renewing our spiritual self is to provide leadership to our life and reinforce your commitment to our value system. To renew yourself spiritually, you can practice daily meditation, communicate with nature, immerse yourself in great literature or music. A focus on our spiritual dimension helps us practice habit 2 as we continuously revise and commit ourselves to our values, so we can begin with the end in mind. Mental dimension. The goal of renewing our mental health is to continue expanding our mind. To renew yourself mentally, you can read good literature. Keep a journal of your thoughts, experiences, and insights. Limit television watching to only those programs that enrich your life and mind. Focusing on our mental dimension helps us practice habit 3 by managing ourselves effectively to maximize the use of our time and resources. Social, emotional dimension. The goal of renewing ourselves socially is to develop meaningful relationships. To renew yourself emotionally, you can seek to deeply understand other people. Make contributions to meaningful projects that improve the lives of others. Maintain an abundance mentality and seek to help others find success. Renewing our social and emotional dimension helps us practice habits 4, 5, and 6 by recognizing that win-win solutions do exist, seeking to understand others, and finding mutually beneficial third alternatives through synergy. As we focus on renewing ourselves along these 4 dimensions, we must also seek to be a positive scripter for other people. We must look to inspire others to a higher path by showing them we believe in them, by listening to them empathically, by encouraging them to be proactive. The real beauty of the 7 habits is that improvement in one habit synergistically increases our ability to improve the rest. Renewal is the process that empowers us to move along an upward spiral of growth and change, of continuous improvement. In addition to the 7 habits, the book also introduces the concept of the circle of influence and concern. This concept helps people understand that they have control over some things in their life, and that they can't control other things. The book encourages people to focus their energy on the things they can control, and to work on expanding their circle of influence, rather than wasting energy on things outside of their control.